All right, hey everybody, thanks for joining us. It's a good looking group of people on the Zoom meeting, and I see more joining as we go. So we'll go ahead and get started in the interest of preserving everybody's time. We may have to pause for just a minute. I, of course, schedule 9 o'clock meetings, and we have 9 o'clock hospital reflection. So we may have to pause for just a second when that gets started. So this is just a brief agenda here this morning. I know introductions are a little bit hard, so we'll just introduce ourselves here on this side, and you can see the participants list for everybody else who's joining. We do have the new meeting set up. Kudos to EMS and EDs and dispatch. We'll talk about who's new to STARS, get you the Slitch team info, and talk about a couple other things. So first of all, I am here. Hi, everybody. I'm Nick. I think I've met almost everybody on this list, but most of you in person, a few only on internet. So hi, thanks for being here with us this morning. We appreciate you spending an epidemic day in 2020 with us. So Trisha's right here with me too. She's just wrapping up a couple things.
Morning.
Cool. All right. As you guys, especially those of you who've been with us for a while, have noticed, so we did kind of change the meeting setup. For moving forward, we're going to do second Tuesday of every month for the next year. We previously did big, long, huge meetings, and we tried to do them quarterly because we knew people were driving a long ways to come see us. The courtesy of Zoom, that's not so much the case now, and I think it's a hard pull to keep everybody's attention for 2 hours on a STARS meeting. So instead, we're going to try just shorter, sweeter, get you a bunch of information here really quickly. I do record all of these. That's not to, please speak up. That wasn't meant to intimidate anybody, but we know everybody's busy. We got STARS coordinators who are on trucks right now running calls. So we're going to record them and have it all available in the STARS application for the videos to be shown later. All right, and so we have kudos for a couple of calls and things going on. Most notably, we had a great call over the weekend with kind of top to bottom, everything worked right. You know, Central County took the call, kicked it. The Florissant Valley went to the call. It ended up being a refusal on one of our most complex stars that we have. She's one of those you like open even the stars form, like as much as we try to narrow it down, just kept going, you know, trach, vent, VP shunt, and all that stuff. And the crew said they were more comfortable from reading the form. They were able to talk with mom, kind of make sure everything was in a good situation, and they were actually in a refusal situation. So that obviously, you know, if our kids are ever sick, please just take them to the hospital. But for these situations that we've all seen in our career where, you know, we're just kind of supporting the parents being safely there at home, that's such a big deal for that family to avoid an unnecessary transport and to follow up through their primary or their specialty clinics later. So kudos to them. That is a big deal.
Especially now during pandemic days, we don't want them here if they don't have to be.
Yep.
I don't know
So
if you all can hear me because I muted myself so we don't have feedback. But especially, you know, now during these times, you know, if we can keep the kids safely home, it is for their benefit. And this is information that helps us tremendously as we continue to move forward. We're going to introduce you to our newest member of our team, but one of the things that she's going to help us with is data, you know, showing that we're actually making a difference. And calls like this definitely show that.
they can't hear you very well over there.
And calls like this definitely, you know, they definitely reflect that we make a difference. We do document every single 911 activation that we get our hands on, which unfortunately, if you're working outside of the database, we don't always capture those. But this will be, you know, documented through the entire thing up and including to if she should have any sort of admission within this week, which we don't expect. She's doing great. We see these a lot with our med patients. Parents are uncomfortable with the readings, false readings usually that they're seeing on pulse oximetry and heart rate monitors. And mom was funny when I talked to her. She's like, I didn't want a 911 response. I said, well, as soon as you mention, you know, bradycardia with your kid, they're going to kick out 911. But, you know, they were able to put her on their EKG and their pulse oximetry compared to the readings they were getting with moms and just provide reassurance, which was fantastic. So kudos. Thank you, Florissant. We appreciate everything you do.
And just out of that, a reminder that, you know, a lot of times we can track down kids who make it to the ED, but refusals are much harder for us. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I know sometimes it seems like nothing to your crews, you know, right? Like they go out and all they do is check a pulse ox and they're back in service, finishing their movie, finishing their dinner. But that's such a huge deal in the healthcare system. And so if you guys wouldn't mind letting us know if you know your crews are running those calls, that would be awesome.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, one other kudos to city. Sorry. Thank you, St. Louis City. You guys are under a ton of stress. I know personally, we have a particular family that tends to have negative interactions in our ED. They can be just challenging to work with, but you know, they've had multiple 911 calls, and talking to the parents this week, they had nothing but fantastic to say about every ambulance that's showed up at their home, which has been a different one each time, but they're impressed. They feel comfortable, and that's the key. I think when I look back at the interactions that are happening in the emergency setting, I think it's discomfort on parents' part, and then they kind of lash out, and St. Louis City is not making them feel that way. So thank you. Compassion goes a long way, and confidence as well. So thank you for everything you do.
Cool. So we do have a couple new agencies. So Central County 911 is obviously, it's a little bit false to put them on here. They've worked with us from the beginning. They were one of the first adopters that really made the system work in the 911 setting. And then they are now on board with the application and doing dispatching for all the agencies that they cover in the Metro St. Louis area. So that's been a cool process onboarding with them, and it seems to be, from our side, it appears to be going well. We do also have Sugar Creek Ambulance Service, which you know, this is to me a cool story, and I'm always reminded of how awesome EMS is everywhere. You know, this agency, they have 1 star in their area, and they still wanted it, and they have the information and the access, and to me, that's, you know, always a sign of how we take care of our communities. That's awesome. That's kudos to them. Medic One has signed on, so that's cool. I think we're in the process of signing them on. St. Louis Fire Department, this obviously another early adopter, and they've been on the binders forever. This a shout out goes out to all the people who spent possibly years of their life working on getting this contract done.
It was actually.
So yeah, it was years. So so it is in place, and we'll be rolling out with the city. And then I just heard from West Overland recently here too, so they'll be on board and coming along. And then I would be remiss not to say also new to STARS is our new third full-time employee here at STARS at Glennon, Miss Morella, who's on this morning. I'll let her talk more about herself in a second. She drinks a lot of coffee, and I find that intimidating because not many people drink more than me. And she comes to us from our trauma department, where she's run the trauma registry for years. Some key places, especially for my coordinators, where you might interact with her. She's going to be doing lots of data collecting regarding the calls. And then she's also going to be your point person on the STARS contracts. Ms. Morella, do you have anything to say?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with each one of you, and hopefully we'll be collecting data and helping out our future stars and have their better outcome.
Awesome. Just a quick note on those contracts. I know we got a couple of people on here who may not have been at the last meeting. We do have a new contract rolling out this year. There's a fillable PDF as of 10/25. If you have a previous contract with us, so don't worry, we're just doing the renewal at the 3-year mark, but you might be getting an email from me and or Morella just saying, hey, the contract's up, we'd like to update you to the newest one, which is a little more accurate for how the program's running these days. Also, we announced at the last meeting that we had partnered with St. Louis Children's, which continues to be the case, that nothing has changed on that front. I just wanted to make sure in the meeting here somewhere we did have the contact emails for the 2 team members they have over there who will take the STARS referrals for Children's. So many of you probably already know Gina Pellerito and Sabina, but they will be handling the STARS kids for St. Louis Children's. Certainly you're not, if you reach out to me, that's fine. I will just put us all CC'd in an email together and get everybody connected if you have a referral for us. I did want to briefly address the referrals. One that just seems to have popped up a little bit this fall, and I know it's kind of a recurrent theme we run into, but we do still sometimes get referrals for the autism spectrum patients. And that's somewhat because early on in STARS, we had enrolled a lot more of these kids into our emergency plans. We don't do that typically now. It's not that we don't, we wish we could support that community, but in all honesty, there's a bit of a tidal wave there that if we open those gates, we'll never be able to keep up. So we still try to really focus it down to, we think through general education, EMS can deal with these behavioral emergencies really well. And we have a lecture put together for that. We're willing to do it online, eventually in person here again. And then we also have some autism kits that have been put together here at Glennon, and we'll gladly share the list. We'll give any extras out that we have, but just some resources to help those calls go a little bit smoother. As far as kind of the conversation of when we think it might be appropriate to put a challenging kid into STARS for that, in some ways, I'm going to be a little bit reliant on my STARS coordinators at the districts. Like, if you guys have already run this kid and you're running and seeing these challenges, I'll put a lot more weight into that versus a potential situation. I wish we could avert potential situations, but like I said, we just can't take that tidal wave. But if your agency is running a kid and you're like, listen, we've caught this kid twice, at the gazebo down by the water, it was close, or we had a choking because this kid loves to shove things in his mouth. If we have a thing where, we just know that they're a violent risk to everybody who responds to them. And both of these last two are encapsulated. We did have a recent request for a STAR, but it was a 17-year-old patient who weighed somewhere close to 250, 300 pounds. And they actually just needed like a specialty dose. They wanted standing orders for the amount of ketamine they were going to give the kid whenever they got to the scene. And so we will still consider it. Just please bring those up to us on a case-by-case basis. But I hope that kind of helps my STARS coordinators with guidance, because I know you guys get asked out there at your agencies sometimes, like families will contact you and be like, hey, are we doing this or not? And just be like, but you can reassure them like, hey, our agency's well-trained, or hey, we asked, Glennon or Children's is going to come in and do some training with us on this topic. And our providers are very capable of handling that call. And I think that'll go a long way, like Trish said, to letting those families feel more comfortable that your agency is prepared to handle those patients. Just referrals in general, that's kind of the STARS kids that we have in. Just remember, we always need that HIPAA waiver. Just because we get the HIPAA waiver, they're not automatically enrolled at that moment. It still goes to the Glennon or the Children's team, and we vet the call and put the kid in or not. Typically less than 18, case by case above 18. And then, please always, like I said, we don't want you to get stuck in a bad jam. We appreciate that you're doing work for these kids in your community. So just reach out to us if you have a question. We're trying to be pretty good at getting back to you. In the STARS application, there is a resource tab at the top. It has been completely updated since the last time we talked to everyone. So this is the format now. There are some resources in there, especially for referrals. There is a referral form to send to the teams. There's also the HIPAA waiver, just that alone, if you need that. There's also probably some cool stuff as far as like when we get back to PR, the days of PR meeting families and events. There's a STARS information flyer to hand out to your community. And then Trish put together this awesome parent guide to 911 for your STARS. So if you're ever like interacting with one of your STARS families, this is the nuts and bolts of like how they can have the best interaction with 911 from beginning to end, like from the call, what they need to have ready for you, how to communicate to EMS, so we can try to get those good call outcomes. Just a few other links that are available in there that might help. There is some online training available. All the how to use the STARS application stuff is in there. And then just some other resources are available. Cool. So eventually someday I'm going to get to turn this section over to Morellis. Who knows, this might be my last time to do it. So I know some people who attend these meetings are kind of interested in the numbers. And so we continue to grow. So You can see 646 currently active stars in the application. Those are the numbers for the rest. We do have a number more on the way. The cool thing is we actually have a decent number of graduated now, and we're seeing that, which is to us a success story. You know, not all kids need to remain inside stars the whole time. So the idea that, you know, if we can come in, we can protect them during their vulnerable stages of their disease. But if as they get repaired or have successful surgeries at the children's hospital and they're much more safe and stable, you know, the idea is that that kid has succeeded and we can kind of graduate them eventually. Some of our kids will keep long term, and you know, well, that's as always case by case. For those of you who are competitive, here's your bar chart. So you guys are letting SCAD win for right now. Expect everybody to step up their game. Keep in mind, so the Illinois regions are slowly, especially for that, those numbers are dwindling as those kids are being switched into their appropriate agencies. That was a change we made this fall. And so we have had a lot more emergency dispatches recently, especially December, I think is on its way. So we're seeing more and more use of the dispatch. And these are agencies by dispatch. So we got Kims and Flow Valley in the lead for that one. Cool. And then these are just activations by month. So just a reminder, you know, we're trying to incorporate the dispatch system for 911 dispatch centers to send the information to crews on the way to calls. And where we hope that's successful. I've heard anecdotally that crews really appreciate that when that system works. Not all agencies have access to that yet or are using that yet. So you still have the ability to just activate, get into the application, access the kids form for an emergency, and then have that info here. So this is anytime anybody clicked, yes, I'm accessing a STARS form for an emergency. All right. For my dispatch agencies, I was going to make a note. This was actually at the request of Dr. Siegler, but we're going to try and on some of the critical calls, provide a note for dispatch as well in the cautionary notes. Just something, you know, so that when you get to the end of your EMD algorithm, you have something to go specific to that STARS kid. So, you know, for the trachs, we're going to start saying, you know, hey, prompt the family for a change if it seems like a critical situation. And then also the other request, and I think 100% appropriate, was the specialty med situations. So, you know, if they're a hemophiliac and they need their factor, or, you know, adrenal insufficiencies and they need their steroid, like remind mom and dad, like, hey, do you have the emergency med around? Have you tried administering that? Cool. Any questions before I move on to some of the application updates? Awesome. My monitor must be doing good. I'm lulling people to sleep this morning.
I can monitor chat too. I'll pull you up.
Okay. So the My Tasks dashboard is in place. Many of you have probably noticed this and wondered why you have something you don't have to use. Eventually, everybody will have tasks here. For right now, the medical directors, this is where their tasks come in, and then some of the admins. But especially for my service provider admins, the next task that you'll eventually have there is the one where it just prompts you to review your employee list just to make sure that that's accurate. For better or worse, I can't know who you hired and who left your agency last week. So just if you wouldn't mind every now and then checking in to make sure that your lists are accurate. If you ever need, you can just deactivate an employee. You just unclick active if you don't know if they've moved on somewhere else or not, but if they don't work for you. I'm not going to go too far on the nuts and bolts, but we did change the way it works a little bit with organizations inside of the application. So essentially all of you are listed as agencies, or you work for agencies that can then be affiliated with a bigger umbrella called organizations. And where this is really helpful, and we've encountered recently, is the ability to incorporate regional medical direction. We have slowly been addressing this. I addressed several regional medical directors at the state, I think 2 weeks ago now, last week. I don't know, it's all starting to blur. It's Christmas time. And then I'll be presenting to SEMO this upcoming Friday. And so this was just the idea that a regional medical director also has the authority, and in some ways they have some more protections within the state rules and regs to help provide specialty protocols for STARS or for special needs patients. And so it was just the idea that whether they could be primary approvers or they could be backup. So if we have a few places, especially super rurally, where we have trouble figuring out who the medical director even is and getting them to approve plans, I can see the slight challenge for them, that's they have one or two kids. And so like getting into the system sometimes I guess seems a little intimidating to approve these plans. And so it was the idea of that we possibly could have some super users who at least, if nothing else, can either encourage those medical directors on how to use the program, or else they could be a backup approver so we don't have some high-risk kids with trachs and vents sitting out there with no support. So cool. We do have some upcoming training opportunities. So I think I saw Gina P on here somewhere. We're going to do a STARS call review next Friday on Zoom. We'll send out the link to you so you can share with your agencies. Just going to review a couple STARS calls and talk through them. We'll issue some CEUs for that. And then in 2021, we already discussed how the meetings are going to every second Tuesday, and the following Friday after every one of those, we're just going to do a training at 9 in the morning on some of our specialty topics. I will start with trach because we should always start with trach, but a great opportunity in January there. If you've had new employees who've come on who haven't had the training, or you had anybody who missed it, or anybody who just needs the refresher, we'll be available to do live in person. We do also always have those resources in the STARS application with links to our training. So we have those available all the time as videos. But if you want to come listen to a live person and ask questions, obviously sometimes that works better for some of us in our education and our training, and we'll have that available. I know we'll get to some of our other presentations, and we're always willing to take requests. I know there's there's always questions, especially when you start looking at the kids in your area. If you'd like us to go specifically over anything, I'd be glad to teach on any of the syndromes, or more likely I'll ask Dr. Laffey to step in and help me out. So yeah, we will do CEUs for all of those trainings. So just trying to give you a little bit of consistency and a place and time to know when to find us, especially until we're doing complete Zoom trainings right now from the office, and we probably won't get back out at least for a couple months here. So, all right, like I said, trying to keep it shorter and sweeter. Were there actually first, Doc Laffey, did you have anything you needed to announce today? Oh, no, did I lose him?
Unmute. No, I don't think, nothing that I can think of unless anyone has any specific questions.
Cool. Awesome. Anybody else, any questions, concerns, challenges with the application, with your STARS? What's that? Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. I'm going to hang on here just in case anybody comes up with anything. I know we kind of have a diverse group here today. So as far as, if you need to jump just, straight to your agency and contracts, or if you want to discuss anything else with any of your kids.
Hey, this is Josh. Just got a follow up for the training. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that live in-person Zoom for a lot of our things, and we know that it's hard to do. So we're going to be flexible with you. So if you have a group of people that are in a room together watching, we can send you something that you can fill out with names and email addresses, get it back to us, and we can process all that stuff for CEUs. So we know it's hard to do on your side, and believe us, it's no fun on our side to do. So we want to make sure that it works as smooth as possible and the people get the credit that they, deserve. So just work with us and we'll work with you and we'll make it happen.
Thank you, Josh.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
This is Tim from Central County. I just have a quick question, and we can talk offline about it. Have you made any headway with allowing, like Tiffany and I, some admin staff here, to get notification when we have an activation, like the fluorescent one you're talking about? That's the first I heard of it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So yeah, so a quick, I can, and just because we probably have other dispatchers on the line here, I can just show you real quick. A quick way to accomplish that is just when you dispatch it, you can tag Central County 911 in addition to whatever agency you're dispatching to, and it will come through to your phones as well. So that would be an easy way for you to like self-track your calls from a dispatch agency. So we'll send a testing one here. So we could select Central County and then, oh, don't have that agency in anymore. We're testing. All right, and so then that way when you send it, it'll say, are you sure you want to dispatch both to the 911 center and whatever agency you pick? And when you click OK, now you will get a page as well.
Okay. All right.
No, but we probably didn't have one. Cool. All right. Any other questions from anyone else? Gina, did you have anything? Not to put you on the spot.
You always put me on the spot. It's okay.
Okay.
The only thing I would say would be that Children's has slowly started partnering with all of its different clinics. So like Neuro and Wings and all the different little entities that they have within Children's. And so slowly but surely the specialists are starting to reach out and refer more and more kids to us. So don't be surprised if over the next, 6 months or so, there's, 1,000 kids that drop into the system. 1,000 might be a little bit of an exaggeration, maybe like 500.
Do you want me to go back and get that tidal wave graphic for you?
Right, thanks.
Yeah.
So don't be nervous when we contact your agencies with lots and lots and lots more kids coming up.
Cool. That's good to know. And also just of note, kind of similar to that for Children's, it's something that we've encountered over the years. There are clearly some kids who are older who would have been in STARS 6 or 7 or 8 years ago whenever they first kind of started at the pediatric hospital. But if they're no longer in complex care, we don't always know about them, depending on what specialist they follow. So sometimes like 911, like you guys still are encountering the kid that we don't know about yet. And so just please feel free to always reach out and ask us, especially when you're in that teenage population. Like sometimes those kids are still valid referrals. And if your agency's running them, please let us know. Cool. All right, Bueller. All right, well, it sounds like we're mostly done. Please contact us offline if you got anything else for us. And other than that, everybody, please stay safe and have happy holidays. We'll look forward to seeing you in January.